Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Alyssa. In case you are new here, welcome and thank you so much for clicking on my video today. So today I decided to do a get ready with me because I haven't done one of these in a while and I felt like I wanted to hype up this next movie coming out from Marvel. And if you guys watched my last video, I did a look with the new makeup that just came out with a collaboration between Urban Decay and Marvel's new upcoming movie, The Eternals. If you didn't catch that one, I will link it in the description box, that way you can watch it. But yeah, I mentioned in that video that I wanted to do some get ready with me's using this makeup. So I used the palette, one of the lipsticks, an eyeliner, the highlighter. Normally my get ready with me's, I don't actually put the makeup that I used in the description box, but I think I'm going to start doing that now because, I don't know, some people might want to know. The series that I'm going to do my story time on today is a 7-issue series called Eternals, and it began in 2006. The writers on this are some of like the biggest names in Marvel. They've written tons. It's by Neil Gaiman and John Romita Jr. Originally, I was gonna do this first video on the original series of the Eternals from 1976, written by Jack Kirby. He's like one of the biggest names in comics as well. He is the creator of Fantastic Four, X-Men, the Hulk, just tons and tons of comics. He wrote a 19-issue series called The Eternals, I think it was just called, but it was eventually canceled and picked up by another writer, and he kind of picked up where that story left off. So I wanted to do this first video on that 19-issue series originally, but as I started reading it, I was like, oh boy, this is a lot. And I don't know if I would even be able, I'm trying to decide if I still want to do that. If I do, I might have to split it up into 2 videos just because it is so many comics, but I don't know if I want to do that. So I don't know, I'll read it and decide what I want to do with it, because I do think that that story might be important because it's the origins, it's where the Eternals was created. But this story that I'm talking about today, it is a really easy to digest origin story. It's like straightforward to the point, so I was able to definitely explain this one, I think, a little bit better than I would be able to explain the first story, but I don't know, I'll work with it and see if I want to do that story. This story talks about the Eternals and how they are under this kind of like spell sort of thing, and they are woken up and become the Eternals. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun reading it, and yeah, I'm really excited to tell you guys this story. So thank you guys for watching and enjoy my story time get ready with me. Let's go. To start off, we have issue number 1, and we are going to talk about one of the main characters. His name is Mark Curry, actually. And Mark Curry, he is a med student, and he's just kind of living his dreary life, and he has these reoccurring dreams, like he's basically some kind of being or entity, like superhero, bigger than himself. But they're also kind of like flashbacks. I don't know, he's not really sure what to make of them. He just knows that he's having them. Mark gets this visit from some guy with these glowing golden eyes at his work, trying to tell him that he's different and that he needs to go with him to help do something. Mark is of course like, whoa, who are you? Get out of my face, crazy person. But kind of like in the back of his mind though, he's kind of like, I mean, I know I am different, and I feel like I've seen this guy before, but I just don't know where I've seen him. So it's kind of strange. Back at his apartment, Mark has this tween, like teenage show on in the background about this kid named Sprite. And this will kind of come into play later on in the story, so don't think that this is just irrelevant. So he hears a tap outside his window, and he goes to investigate and see what the heck it is, and come to find out it's this dude that was stalking him at his work from earlier. And he tries to get Mark to listen to him once again, and once again he's kind of blown off. Switching over to other people in this story, we have a friend, or a pair of friends, named Abigail and Circe. It's a really weird name, but that's her name. Circe comes over to Abigail's house and she asks for some money to borrow to pay for her rent. I just realized I don't have my foundation right here, so I'll be right back. Her friend Abigail, we'll just call her Abby, kind of gets on Circe's case about getting a real job. Just then Circe gets a phone call and it's good news. Apparently she's started up this party planning business or something, and she has gotten into contact with someone for a potential gig. So this will be like her first client, which is exciting. Well, it's her potential first client. She has a meeting with him anyway. Next, we have a flash to one of the Eternals named Icarus, or Icarus. I don't know how to say it. I'm just gonna say Icarus. I think that's how it's pronounced. He's having a conversation with one of the other Eternals. Well, I mean, it's kind of just like a flashback in his head. Then he comes back to reality and is found by these two men who grab him and try to kill him. And they drop almost like this tiny nuclear bomb onto him. It's really crazy. Back to Circe. She's in this meeting now with this ambassador kind of to a country that was basically part of the once Soviet republics, like the former Soviet republics. I don't know, that's like the best way to describe it since the name is so hard to pronounce. The guy's name is Druig and he's like super hardcore, and he's trying to set up a party to basically encourage tourism to his country and so on. His guest list is pretty top notch, but he's got the money to spend on it. He specifically wanted these particular scientists to attend, and there's gonna be like more on that to come later. But needless to say, Circe is ecstatic. Like, this is her first gig, so exciting, and she's getting paid $20K, and she's kind of the ultimate like fake it till you make it type. Going back now to the first guy, Mark, he has kind of got his work cut out for him. This dude who had the bomb dropped on him has shown up in his, I guess, ward, I guess you'd call it, at his work, and he's checking him out and assessing, and sure enough, it is the same guy who had come to him earlier. Jumping to the next, we have a woman named Thena. She is a scientist working for Stark Industries. She's not an employee there. She was more or less just kind of recruited as almost like an independent contractor. So she was brought over for this specific assignment for Stark Industries. It's not really that relevant to the story, but then all of a sudden Tony pops in and he has his words with her. Like, good words, I mean. She's showing him the project and she's got it all figured out and everything is just peachy. I almost forgot to say, her husband had called and told her about this invitation that she'd received to Circe's party, and so of course she was like, yeah, heck yeah, we're gonna attend. So that's kind of relevant to the story too. Back to Mark and Icarus. It's so hard to pronounce. Icarus starts to tell the story to Mark about how long ago in a galaxy far, far away, wait, that's the wrong story. There were these celestial beings, I guess you'd call them. They're huge, like huge, and they're almost robotic looking things that came to the earth millions of years ago. Back then, humans weren't like how they are now. They're not as evolved. Using the evolution theory, they're more kind of ape-like. These celestials built kind of like this rock formation for the humans to work on and try to figure out. They were like magic, and the result was them being able to create these Eternals out of them. And then next, the Celestials made these deviants, like super, super ugly looking creatures. They turned mad with power and tried to get the humans enslaved by them. They were like controlling them. And they were trying to come after the Eternals, but the Eternals essentially didn't really want to have anything to do with them. They were just like, leave us out of your mess. When they wouldn't leave the Eternals alone, the Eternals were like, all right, bro, let's go, pull up. They battle. And even though the Eternals are significantly outnumbered, like a couple hundred versus a couple million, the Eternals still have the advantage because they're super powerful, and based on the fact that they essentially can't be killed. The Celestials come down from up above and are like, dude, what is this madness? But the Deviants are not backing down. So they get what's coming to them, and ultimately they were defeated and just reduced to about a few thousand of them left, the Deviants. Essentially they burrowed and they were never heard from again. So the humans were freed and they were able to flourish and build their own civilizations. The Eternals kind of helped them in many ways, like come into their own and help them learn many skills and build their civilizations to what it became. Catching up on the last thing that Icarus can remember is that the Celestials had come down once again to essentially kind of judge mankind the same way that they had those million something years ago, and that's kind of where his memory starts to get foggy. So that's his story to Mark. And he knows that Mark is one of his kind, and he just kind of wants him to remember. Then Mark fires back with all these questions and skepticism as to why this story doesn't make any sense at all. And, you know, at least it's all out there now. So Icarus really doesn't need to be in the hospital, but he's just kind of staying there at that point to keep prodding at Mark and hoping that he'll kind of cave. He watches this reality show about who's going to be the next great superhero. The contestants, they actually get to go and meet Sprite, that 11-year-old kid that I was talking about earlier, the show that Mark was watching. And he's kind of like the ultimate it thing right now. Like, he's like a rock star, and he's also got his own TV show. Like, he's kind of like the current of the moment person. Icarus actually tells Mark at one point that Sprite is actually one of their kind as well. And like I said, this will all become important later on. Next, Mark is being questioned by some guys about this Icarus guy. I guess Mark thinks that these dudes are part of the medical board, and so they decide to come into Icarus's room and sedate him. And Icarus actually catches a glimpse of these guys as this is happening and sees that it's the same guys who tried to blow him up. So he's kind of screwed. He knows it at that point, but he's sedated. I guess we're on to the next issue. The next issue starts with Icarus, and he's unconscious in a vat filled with water, which is fine because he can't die from it because he's an Eternal. But then in lies the problem for these two men who are trying to kill him. How do we kill him? I don't know. Let's try an acid bath. What kind of acid? Hyaluronic acid, battery acid, sulfuric acid? Yeah, let's go with sulfuric acid. Let's try that. Back to Mike. He's just got done working his 20-something hour shift. He feels not so well. He knows that something is changing inside him. And I forgot to mention earlier, but Mike has this love for speed. His favorite thing to fantasize about is just driving around super fast on the highway in like a Ferrari. Like, his thing is speed. Anyways, keep that in mind. He finds his way to the local coffee shop where he has a run-in with, Cersei. Instant connection. They both just had this feeling inside like they've known each other a while, like maybe in a past life or something. Now we cut to this child star who I mentioned about in the last issue. His name is Sprite. He's got an interview with this journalist, but the questions seem to be taking an unexpected turn. He starts getting questioned about his history, like who he was before he became a big star. Now, he should know better than to ask him that. Those questions are strictly off limits, and as far as the commoners know, his parents were horrible people and he had to emancipate, more or less, from them. So this interview is finished, and Sprite's lawyer assures him that there's gonna be no more interview, no more anything like that ever again. Back at the hospital, Mark here has to answer for his reasoning as to why he just handed off this patient to these two strange men who claim to be doctors? And furthermore, why would you administer a tranquilizer that's not part of protocol? He's in big trouble. Suspended, effective immediately. It lets like the readers in on a little bit of a secret though. Before he met this man, Icarus, he actually had dreams about him and about these celestials, about everything. Oh man, something's about to go down. A quick flash to Cersei and her friend Abby. Oh, you know, just had to gush about this doctor that she just met and she just can't get him out of her head. Okay, that's all. Jumping back to Icarus, he's being dragged into the acid pit now. He's unconscious, but his mind is still kind of turned on in a way. If only he could just reach out to somebody for help. Just then, Mark gets a phone call from Cersei. What's that you say? A party? I'd be honored to go. Just then, he gets jolted kind of from inside with an image in his head trying to reach out to him and ask for help. It's Icarus. He needs your help, Mark. Mark just seems to be like so irritated with the whole mess. He just wants to live his boring life, guys, okay? Is that so much to ask? All right, guys, party time. So Cersei says to Mark, okay, Marky Poo, you're so wonderful, you know, just great and all, but I hope you don't mind this like teensy little favor. Could you just like pretend, you know, just for tonight at this big party, fancy party, all these people, that you're like this big shot magazine editor of this foreign policy magazine. Yeah, that'll get them going, you know, think that you're this big shot. Yeah, that'll be nice. Oh yeah, it'll be fine. If anyone asks anything, just, you know, talk foreign policy stuff. You don't know anything about foreign policy? Oh, it's fine. You got this. You got this. Oh, and then Athena has also arrived to the party. Stunning, long, flowing, golden dress. We're mingling, everyone's having a good time. You've got the kids from America's Next Superhero TV show there. The Deputy Prime Minister Druig's got the hostage situation all lined up. Wait, what? Next, we have some party goer, which actually turns out to be Athena's husband, go into this room, which he wasn't supposed to go into. I think he was like looking for the restroom or something. Unfortunately, he kind of meets his demise, which is clearly heard by the rest of the people there. Oh man, what's next? These armed and masked guys come barging through, ordering everyone to the middle of the room. So this is officially like a hostage situation now. Next we flash to Icarus. He's deeply disturbed by what's happening and it shakes him to his core, but you know, there's nothing he can do though. Then these guys just go full throttle on him and just totally, I want to say kill him, but they can't kill him, so like he's basically killed but not killed. Back at the party, turn not so party anymore, we have a first glimpse of an attempt at UNI-Mind. So this will come into play like later in the story. We have Mark and Cersei talking to one another, but wait, before they even realize it, neither of them are even talking out loud. They're communicating like with their minds. How did they do that? These guys are rounding up all the scientists to go get them on this helicopter while the rest of the party goers are left in the room. In the midst of all this chaos, sorry if you like hear noise now, I just turned on my essential oil diffuser because I'm still stuffy, so I need this peppermint. Anyways, Mark, amidst all the chaos, he's kind of like transforming in a way under pressure. It's the best way to describe it. Something's happening, that's for sure. In the last few panels of this issue, we have orders put out to kill everyone there. Every last one of them. All right, now I guess we are on to the next issue. This one kind of starts off picking up where the last one left off. But before that, we see Mark talking to somebody about everything that's happened so far, like everything that's happened. And he just goes into great detailed description about how he got himself and the rest of the people out of the party. Rest of the people at the party out of there. There we go. You see, when everyone was threatened at the party, it kind of sparked something inside of him and his powers kind of kicked into action. And his superpower is speed, and when those terrorists started to unload their fire onto everyone there, Mark was able to kind of spring into action, gather all the bullets and the guns from the guys before anyone could even blink. Pretty incredible. Now it's superhero time. One of the contestants from that superhero show that I was talking to you guys about sprang into action, and then Tony Stark decided to barge in and do what he does best. Everyone is good and fine, which brings us back to Mark, and looks like he was talking to Sprite this whole time. Remember at the hospital how Icarus had said to Mark that Sprite was one of them? So that's why he went and just spilled everything to this kid. Now the question remains, who were the two men that posed as doctors and that took Icarus? Or I guess they call him Icarus in this, because that's his like pseudo name, human name, whatever you want to call it. So then the story jumps to those two guys. We see them go down some scary, dark looking basement to perform some type of ritual. And this is kind of like a foreshadowing thing as to what's gonna come later on in the story. And now we see them transform into some kind of ugly creatures, perhaps maybe a deviant. Back to Cersei now. Boy, has she been through it. Wait for this freaking helicopter. Okay, sorry, my memory card was full, so I had to go and unload that real quick. And if you hear ticking in the background, that's my toaster oven. So her first party at this point is like off the rails. Mike keeps trying to get a hold of her. Tony Stark is accusing her of being a superhero. Wait, what? That last one? Oh yeah. Yeah, sure. After the bad guys were caught, Tony Stark approached Cersei and was like, hey, you know you need a register, right? And Cersei was like, register for what? He was like, you're a superhero. You need to register, it's the law. And Cersei's like, I'm not a superhero, man. And Tony's like, fine, if that's how you want to play it, then fine. But you know you can't stay neutral forever. Crazy stuff, you know? Moving right along, next we're going to catch up with Druig. Remember that guy, right? Through this whole dang party to begin with. Well, I should start by saying that he never actually wanted anyone killed. That was actually not part of the plan. But, you know, sometimes things just don't go according to plan. Anyways, here he is talking with one of his associates about how he evaded the police after the party. So he leaves some parts pretty vague, but to kind of fill you guys in, see this guy, he's crazy. We've kind of established that. But he's also got some powers of his own, you see. So he's able to make anyone see their deepest fears and past traumas and uses this against them as a form of mind control, sort of. Once he's got them under his control, he's able to make them do anything that he wants them to do. With this, he's able to get the information that he needs on where these scientists are being held so that he can use them for his own personal gain instead of like, because it was originally part of the plan to have them help out his country, but he's kind of self-absorbed and wants to be like a tyrant, so now he's like, oh, I'm just gonna use them for my own personal gain. The scientists are hiding at a safe house really far away. So you remember Athena? This woman is such a smarty. Well, obviously, she's a scientist. She's been locked up for a few days at this point, but that's only kind of given her time to strategize and figure out a plan. So the guards come in to bring her her daily meal, and when she strikes them, she grabs one of their phones and immediately calls Tony. So what do you guys think that Tony's up to besides not looking for one of his loyal associates? Well, he's trying to go through the records and find Cersei's history because he swears that she was a former Avenger, but there's no records to be found. Seems like she's telling the truth. Anyways, Athena gets a hold of him and he's able to track her through the cell phone GPS and come rescue her. She's able to break free. Tony comes and gets her, but as it turns out that she actually has a young son, and so she's a little bit pissed at Tony because she's like, my husband was just killed at this party and his mom was taken away, so did you even like check up on him and see who's watching him? So she's a little pissed at him. He takes her home, and the last shot of this issue, we see Icarus able to have his life be restored, and that's sort of like the beginning, like a reawakening. Do you guys think he died? He's an Eternal, remember? So he's like essentially reborn. Next-ish. Now we see Icarus being restored. Well, I mean, not completely restored, actually. He's more like reborn because he hasn't retained any memory of what had happened to him. Then we see a snap of Druig evading capture from the authorities using his mind control thing. Then the story snaps to Cersei, who's deep in questioning about her identity. There's just no way that she's a superhero, otherwise she'd be able to turn this measly cat over here into a dragon with the snap of her finger. Oh, wait, she just did that. Oh boy, here we go. Then the story snaps back to Mark and Sprite. It's so funny saying that name. I always think of the soda, Sprite. Anywho. Sprite has taken Mark to this particular spot in Golden Gate Park, because that's kind of where he's based in, is San Francisco area. And so he takes him to Golden Gate Park, to this rock formation. Well, it looks like a rock formation. It was built from the Celestials long, long ago. Sprite somehow convinced Mark that he's actually not like him and that Mark is the only one between the two of them with any special powers or abilities. He says to Mark, oh yeah, if I touch this rock thing, nothing happens to it. But if you touch it, however, magical things will happen. So what does he do? Convinces him to touch it. And choop! Down they go. Mark touches it and he's able to activate it. They drop below the Earth's surface, are completely walled in. Sprite convinces Mark that the way through it is for him to use his powers to ram the wall, because once again, Sprite has no powers. See, look, touching it, nothing's happening. Mark runs into it at top speed and then boom, it's awoken. Now we flash to Icarus, and he's still trying to figure out what is even going on here. Suddenly a fire gets lit within inside of him. Well, I mean, I guess on the outside too, technically. And he's able to go through this internal archives in his head and able to figure out everything that's been going on. Okay, I love this blue so much more than that gold eyeliner. Holy crap. Back to Mark and Sprite. Sprite is spilling everything at this point about their past. Essentially, Sprite used to be sort of this helper to these Eternals / gods. I mean, they're Eternals, but they're essentially like gods. He explained how Mark and Cersei used to be together back in the day and how they used to break up and make up over and over, how he always used to want to help out and be more involved in everything that was going on, but they essentially kind of shunned him out of it because he was just this 11-year-old kid, even though he wasn't really 11 at that point because he was basically stuck at that age. So he was 11 forever, but in his mind he was more than 11. He kind of grew resentful out of it all. He waited and he kind of planned for the right time to come when he could change things in his favor. So his power is like the power of illusion. So he can make people see whatever he wants them to. And after the opportunity had come, he put the two most powerful of them all, which is Xurus, he's kind of like their leader, and Ajax, who is the communicator between, he can communicate with the Celestials and nobody else can. And he made them take a nap, I guess you could say, in the reactivation chamber. And he had the chance to change everything by forming a UNI-Mind with the rest of the Eternals group, and from there he created the world that he wanted, and where he could be human and grow up like a human and not be 11 years old forever. But if you haven't figured it out, he's actually revealing all this to Mark, who's paralyzed after striking that big wall, which wasn't actually a wall at all, but it was actually a dormant celestial. Turns out that when an Eternal strikes at, or tries to strike at a celestial, well, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself, we'll get there. For now, let's catch up with Thena. So she's back at home now, safe with her son. She's having this very vivid dream where she's fighting off bad guys and she's in this crazy costume, and then she awakens and startles her son, who's looking at her like, who are you and what have you done with my mommy? It looks like her dreams have caused her to transform, I guess. Suddenly, she is visited by Icarus, and he's telling her that she needs to come with him because they need to help save Earth. Now we're on to the next issue. Look who's caught up to the kid. These two creepy ugly dudes. It looks like they are trying to capture him, but Sprite's bodyguards actually try to fend them off with absolutely no luck of that. Sprite then tries to himself get away from them, but yeah, no chance of that. Okay, now let's put some of the pieces to this puzzle together. Remember those two names that I mentioned, Ajax and Zurus? Well, Ajax has awakened from the amnesia, it would seem, before anyone else had, and he had hired these two deviants to take care of Icarus because he knew Icarus was going to go around and try to wake the others. Ajax thought Icarus would be safer in the reactivation chamber, but it turns out everything has gone wrong and now the Earth is in danger of this celestial waking up and bringing forth sort of this like Judgment Day scenario where the whole human life would be in danger of being wiped out completely. So now Zurus is back online and it's time to go to work to protect the Earth. Now let's catch up with Druig, that old guy. Well, he's on some tyrannical power trip and he is pinning some diplomats against each other in order for him to rise to power. Gotta love the dark streak in comics sometimes. Back to the underground of Golden Gate Park. Looks like the two men who we know now are deviants have decided to join in on the little fun. They revealed that long ago when the deviants were being scooped up and devoured, it was basically a crime against them, and Ajax is the only one who's able to communicate with the Celestials. He had said that when one of the Celestials had spoken out about them doing this, then they were exiled away from this specific Celestial was exiled away from like the rest of the Celestials here underground at Golden Gate Park. Now it's time to wake this bad boy up from his slumber and destroy the Earth. Back to Icarus and Thena now. They're both working on getting Circe to come with them to complete this mission to help save Earth, but Circe is like not having it. She just wants to be left alone to work on her parties. Eventually they do convince her, and right as they are about to take her with them, her friend Abby walks through the door, and it kind of makes her like rethink like, ugh, I don't want my friend to forget about me, you know, I have such a good life here. But eventually they do like convince her and they do whisk her away to go help them. So they leave, and then almost at the exact same moment that they leave, Ajax and Zurus enter into her house and try to look for her because they are looking for her as well. We're looking for her specifically, someone who's able to change things. So when they weren't able to get her, they decide to go for the next best person, an Eternal who is also able to change things, and that is Druig. They convince him to come with them, and in exchange for this, Druig just asks that they do not try to interfere whenever he has things going on with his country, you know, war-related stuff. He just doesn't want them to, you know, try and stop him. They make the deal and set off. Next, we get a shot of Hank Pym over at the Avengers Tower with some alarming activity showing up under the Golden Gate Park. Uh-oh. Him and Janet start setting off to investigate. And then back underground, we see the first shot of the Celestials starting to awaken. And it appears, though, that this thing will be fully powered by sunrise. Dun dun dun. Next issue. But the Dreaming Celestial is now slowly waking up, and it's projecting through various humans of the world. And it's very like, how do I describe it? It's like incoherent frequencies, I guess. They're just kind of like spouting off information that it's being transmitted through people from the Celestial. It's really hard to describe. Icarus, Circe, and Thena's son, are flying towards the Celestial that's awakening, and they're flying on this like this flying surfboard type of thing. And when they come smack right head on into it, they all just kind of drop to the ground. It appears that there is a force field surrounding this celestial. So they fall on the ground, and Cersei immediately notices Mark just passed out on the ground. So she rushes over to him, and right at the same time, she gets grabbed out of nowhere by, guess who? One of the deviants. I think I should have put a color under this. Oh well. All three of them actually get grabbed at the same time, but with Icarus's ability, I guess you could say, he's able to use his eyes, and they're like lasers, so he is able to free them because he like shoots the lasers at this guy and sets them all free. So this deviant is trying to stop the Eternals from messing with the Celestial because he wants the Celestial to awaken and bring like this judgment day upon the earth, upon the humans, and potentially just wipe them out. That's what all the deviants who are left over, they're all kind of hoping for this. But in order for this to happen, the sun needs to rise. Then Cersei turns the deviant into a tree. Some dudes from space called the Watcher and the Galactus see what's happening, and they are kind of fearful what's gonna happen to Earth. Then Yellowjacket, Iron Man, and the Wasp join in on all the fun. Sorry, I'm like trying to speed it up because this story's really long. But when the Avengers get there, they don't know what this thing is, so their first instinct is to attack it. But then Thena stops Iron Man, and Tony recognizes her in that same moment, and she tells him that they can't attack it and that it's her duty to protect it. Next, Icarus comes up with a temporary fix to help slow down the process. Since Yellowjacket's ability is he's able to like shrink and like grow in size, he decides that if he temporarily blocks the sun from rising, that this just might be good enough, you know, of a temporary fix for now to keep the Celestial from waking up. Next, Icarus comes up with a better plan. So in order to do it, all of the Eternals would have to participate, and he wants to form the UNI-Mind. And I believe it takes at least 4 of them, which is what they have there, but Cersei is more concerned for Mike at the moment, or I guess we'll just call him Makari. Makari. We're gonna call him Makari at the moment because that's like his Eternal's name. Mike Curry. McCurry. We'll call him McCurry, I think. So he's still kind of, you know, unconscious. But before they can do anything, it looks like something's happening. The giant has risen. Now there's a change of plans. It looks like Icarus wants to try to communicate with it. So, you know, just talk him out of it. It'll be fine. No judgment day. But before he can do anything, guess who the cat dragged in? Ajax, Zarus, and yes, Druid. Now that the family is reunited, let's get down to business here. So they try to figure out their best course of action, and as it turns out, Icarus is the only full Eternal here, because remember when he went through that restoring process, that officially made him like a reborn Eternal. Everyone else is kind of in their slumber amnesia state, so they don't fully recognize everything, if that makes sense. There was propositions to possibly go back in time and undo everything that Sprite's done, or maybe Ajax, who's the communicator to the Celestials, can communicate with the other Celestials and ask for their help with the situation. Ultimately, they decided a different approach, so away they go. So they all form the UNI-Mind. They were all quickly blasted away and then tumbled to the ground, and then all of a sudden Mark gets taken over, like his mind gets taken over. The Celestial is inside his mind trying to communicate with him. They're having this conversation which basically resulted in saying that this thing is awake now and it will be watching and analyzing, and then it will cast judgment before the last shadow falls, whatever that means. He also said something about Iron Man and how he's amused by him. Oh, and also the Horde. The Horde is coming. H-O-R-D-E. They are not Celestials. I don't really know how to describe them. They're actually like kind of their own species. So he spat back into consciousness and tells the guys everything that he was told and how this thing is going to judge everyone. The Avengers kind of toe with the idea of killing it, saying that they've fought everything under the sun and even like outside the sun, not in this galaxy, and that surely with every registered superhero on their side, they should be able to defeat this thing, right? But Makari advises against it. He's saying that it's not going to hurt anyone. It's literally just going to be this giant statue propped up in the middle of the park, just kind of watching everything. This is kind of when Iron Man is like, wait a minute. What's really going on here? Zurus tries to explain it to him as best as he can, but essentially they are the Eternals. Last issue, guys. So here we are. Giant Celestial just propped up in the middle of the park slash tourist attraction. The Eternals are residing up in the sky in Olympia. Suddenly there's an army at their doorstep. Not just any army, this is the army of the Deviants. Now that the Eternals are back, the Deviants are not happy about it and they want them gone. But remember how I said earlier how the Eternals have always beat the Deviants in years past, just no contest? Well, yeah, this is same thing. It's revealed to Cersei at this point about a conversation between Iron Man and Zurus that had happened, and how they came to the agreement that the Eternals would not register as superheroes because they're really not there to fight. They're not interested in fighting against the superheroes or even alongside the superheroes of Earth. They just kind of want to stay in their lane up in Olympia. Their mission is simple. They just want to return to Olympia, find all the missing Eternals that are still under Sprite's spell, I guess you'd call it, and then repair all the damage that Sprite has caused. That's it. Back to the Deviant situation. Even though the Eternals are trying their best to de-escalate the situation, good old Druig steps in and he's like, let's go, man. I'm ready to fight. And he like starts to strike at them without even hesitating because we all know at this point he's a fighter. He's kind of like the god of war. It's like he can't resist it. Now we'll shift really quick back to Sprite. So what is Sprite up to now, you ask? Well, he's actually on the run, sort of. But the mighty Zurus has caught up to him, and so they exchanged some words, and basically they came to the conclusion that Sprite is not sorry for anything that he's done, and as long as he's still alive, he's basically gonna, you know, still be up to his mischievous ways, because if they go back and change things back to the way things were before Sprite has caused all this, that would also cause Sprite to not be human anymore. So what's to stop him from just doing this again? Zurus has no choice but to, yeah. Back in Olympia, Makari goes back and forth with some of the Deviants. They're like wanting to fight him, but he doesn't want to fight them, and they're kind of like going back and forth like, should we fight them? Just a whole thing. But eventually they kind of come to a agreement. It's kind of hard to explain, and they leave. The Deviants leave. All's well that ends well, I guess, right? Ajax has taken up residence watching over this Celestial while he awaits for their Judgment Day. Druig has returned to his country, which he so humbly wanted to rule over, so he gets to kind of do his dictatorship thing, and all the other Eternals have taken up residence up in Olympia, just kind of, you know, living their best life up there. But to leave us with a little bit of a tease at the end, Zurus calls upon Makari and Icarus with a task to bring back all of the sleeping Eternals that are still down on Earth, just waiting to be awoken. So that's kind of the cliffhanger, you guys. And with that, we have reached the end of the series. I know that this was kind of a cliffhanger, but the next series that I'll be talking about actually picks up where this one left off. So it's written by a different writer. It's a 9-issue series, so I'll read that one next for you guys and post that one for my next video. I want to leave you guys with my final thoughts. Many times when stories are transformed into movies, there will be parts of the series that they like to switch up in the movie. It could be for a number of reasons. Maybe certain things just translate better on screen if they're switched up, or maybe they just don't want to give away certain plot details to people that may have read the series. I guess like the case with the Black Widow movie that just came out. If you guys had watched my Get Ready With Me on, or Get Ready With Me's on that particular storyline, you'll see that the Red Guardian actually wasn't her father, it was like her husband. So they'll kind of switch things up like that. When I was looking through the actors list for this movie, I noticed that a couple of the characters turned them from male characters into female characters on the screen. But, you know, it keeps the viewers on their toes, I guess. We'll see what happens with this film. That being said, I must leave you now. I feel like I've been filming forever and I have got some more comics to read, you guys, for my next video. Let me know how excited you guys are to watch this movie based on this little tidbit of a story that I gave you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and ring the notification bell. That way you're notified when I post my next Get Ready With Me. Like I said, I will be doing another short little series picking up where this story left off, so make sure you guys are subscribed. That way you don't miss it. I hope you guys go and have a good one, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.